What's up everyone, it's Bones here. In today's video, I'll be reviewing the new cards that we got in the Rescue Ace archetype, as well as semi-playing out a couple of hands here to give you an idea of what the deck does. But before I begin, if you happen to enjoy content like this, clicking those thumbs up and subscribe buttons would be greatly appreciated, as they go a long way in supporting the channel and shows me that you like content like this. So to get these out of the way, I want to point out that Hoister and Impulse both have similar secondary effects in which they have the same cost. And you'll see that they both read when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field. Quick effect, you can tribute this card from your hand or field. So both of these cards are technically hand traps, except they don't really give out interruptions. And what Impulse does is it allows you to special summon one Machine Rescue Ace monster from your deck, while Hoister allows you to special summon one Rescue Ace monster from your hand. And as for the first effect, this one is what I like to call Rescue Ace Marionetter, because it allows you to add one Rescue Ace spell from your deck to your hand, while I like to call Impulse Rescue Ace Multi-Faker, because it gets you a Rescue Ace monster from deck. Funny enough, Hydrant is sort of like the pseudo Milu-Seek, not in the sense that it can be removal, but it does buff up your traps. As you can see, Contain, this card is always treated as a Rescue Ace card. If you control a Rescue Ace monster, target one effect monster your opponent controls. It cannot attack, its effects are negated. Also, if you control Rescue Ace Hydrant, it cannot be used as a material for a fusion, synchro, exceed, or link summon. These effects last until the end of the turn. So I would also like to point out that the quick play spells and the traps do have the same effect, that if you control Rescue Ace Hydrant, they add something else. And now to read Rescue Ace Milu-Seek or Hydrant, your opponent cannot target this card for attacks or with card effect. While you control a Rescue Ace monster other than Rescue Ace Hydrant, you can activate one quick play spell or trap the turn it is set by your Rescue Ace card's effect. And during your main phase, you can add one Rescue Ace monster from your deck to your hand, except Rescue Ace Hydrant. You can only use each effect of Rescue Ace Hydrant once per turn. So now that we've read all the cards, you'll see I'm going to type your opponent activates a monster effect here on the right, and the reason I'm saying that is because we're going to use the Impulse effect and playing on turn 0, which is one of the nice things about this deck, but as you see, you don't really end up on multiple interruptions, and you can't use or chain both the effects as when effects, and you want to resolve them. So you do have to wait until your opponent uses another effect here if you want to continue playing on turn 0, which is going to happen. But before I do that, I'm going to read Fire Attacker, and it reads, if a Rescue Ace monster or monsters other than Rescue Ace Fire Attacker is normal or special summoned to your field, you can special summon this card from your hand. If a card or cards is added to your opponent's hand, except by drawing, you can draw 2 cards, then send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, and you can only use each effect of Rescue Ace Fire Attacker once per turn. And this is important because there's 2 ways to play this, and I'm going to talk about it in the deck profile, because I went with the way that may see less play overall, but it was just an idea I had and wanted to show. So you'll see now that when our opponent activates another effect, we can use the Hoister, get the Hydrant out on the field, and this is what we have on turn 0, heading into our turn if our opponent can't happen to out these monsters. Now on to the next hand, and you'll see that you're pretty much familiar with almost all of these except Extinguish. And Extinguish is also, this card is always treated as a Rescue Ace card. If you control a Rescue Ace monster, target one effect monster your opponent controls, destroy it. And if you control a Rescue Ace Hydrant, then you can make it so that your opponent cannot activate the effects of the destroyed monster as well as monsters with the same original name. And I want to point out that it's not a you can, but that's what happens if Hydrant is on the field. So you'll see that we're going to use the Prosperity here. We're going to dig for 6. The extra deck really doesn't matter in this deck. You may want to go into something like Hita sometimes, but it's not really going to do much. As you'll see, we're going to put to the bottom the rest of the cards from Prosperity, as we're going to normal summon the Hydrant, then special summon the Fire Attacker, and then we can use the Hydrant effect, adding the Impulse, and now we have a pair of quote-unquote hand traps and a couple of disruptions with these two, along with the draw 2, send 1. What's up, everyone? It's Bones here, making a quick edit because I found a little bit of a turn 1 play that you could do with the deck, so I'll get on to it. So, you want to start by normal summoning the Hydrant, then special summoning the Fire Attacker with its effect, which is the way you're going to have to get into this. Then you can use the Hydrant's effect, which will allow you to search the big boss monster, which allows you to banish 2 Rescue Ace cards from the graveyard in order to special summon itself, and then you can set up to 4 Rescue Ace spells and traps from your deck to the field, and they have to be quick play spells or normal traps to keep that in mind. So I'm going to special summon the Turbulence here, and then during the main phase you can activate its effect, get the alert, and the extinguish, the contain, and finally the rescue. So that's pretty much for all of the hands. We'll get back to the video. So onto the deck profile. If you happen to notice some of the weaknesses that this deck has through the opening hands, then you may know what I'm going to say, but for those that don't, you'll see that the deck is pretty reliant on having Hydrant and Impulse, as Impulse gets you into your Hydrant. If you don't draw your Impulse or your Hydrant, the deck becomes a fair bit slower. That's why I do have the Prosperity to dig for 6 over the Pot of Extravagance, and I don't really want to play Small World because I don't think that the -1 is worth it in a control-based deck like this. The 3 punishments here can also be 3 D barriers. I don't know what I would really put here, but as you'll see, the deck is really a lot like Altergeist. The difference is Fire Attacker kind of serves as a Silk and a Conquery in a pseudo way, but you do also have a boss monster in Turbulence, and I'll go over the Fire Ace monsters that I haven't read. So, Turbulence reads that you can banish 2 Rescue Ace cards from your graveyard, special summon this card from your hand. During your main phase, you can set up to 4 Rescue Ace quick play spells and or normal traps with different names directly from your deck. And if another card or cards you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. You can only use each effect of Turbulence once per turn. And on to Rescue, you'll see that this card is always treated as a Rescue Ace card. Target 1 Rescue Ace monster in your graveyard, or if you control Rescue Ace Hydrant, you can target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard instead, special summon it to your field. And then you have Alert, which reads this card is always treated as a Rescue Ace card. Add 1 Rescue Ace monster from your graveyard to your hand, or if you control Rescue Ace Hydrant, you can add 1 Rescue Ace monster from your deck to your hand instead, and you can only activate 1 alert per turn. So, as you can see from reading the spells and traps, you really do want Hydrant out on the field. And Fire Attacker is the reason that I'm going to say that you can actually change the build a fair bit. If you want to play less traps and play a bunch of hand traps so that your Fire Attacker is actually drawing into stuff, that is perfectly fine. The only reason that you're seeing this trap trick build is because going first, if you happen to play that many hand traps, you're almost guaranteed to have a miserable turn 1, as a lot of your cards are dependent on your opponent doing stuff, and you don't necessarily want to limit what you can respond to, as the deck is kind of fragile. So I did want to make it more universal with the trap trick build. On to the other cards I haven't read here. As you'll see, we have the Fire Engine, and there is a reason I don't play this. I'll read it now. If a Rescue Ace monster other than Rescue Ace Fire Engine is normal or special summon to the field, or your field, you can special summon this card from your hand. If a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower Rescue Ace monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. And you can only use each effect of Rescue Ace Fire Engine once per turn. And if you're wondering why I don't play this, it's because Fire Attacker kind of serves the same purpose in the sense that it's that card in the hand that you want to special summon. But the thing is that I would actually like to see the names over this and not increase the deck size, because it's the names that actually get you into the cards that you want to see. I just feel like adding another card which requires a Rescue Ace monster other than itself to be normal or special summoned when you're already playing 3 of this just doesn't do a lot for the deck, especially when you're already relying on your opponent to play in order to get your engine going. And the thing is that if you're going to use Fire Engine's effect on turn 0, it also means that you're using either the Impulse or the Hoister. And if you're using one of those, it's because you're already getting one of these. So it's a card that I don't have in my initial build that could change, but I just see it kind of as overkill when we already have the 3 Impulse to do its job. And then the Rescue Ace Headquarters, which I don't play at all, and it's Rescue Ace monsters you control gain 500 attack defense while your opponent controls a monster. During your main phase, you can normal summon 1 Rescue Ace monster in addition to your normal summon set. You can only use this effect once per turn, and once per turn you can target 4 of your Rescue Ace cards that are banished or in your graveyard and shuffle them into the deck, then draw 1 card. So you can see why I don't play this card. It relies on you having 2 monsters that you want to normal summon. Half the time this is a pseudo quote-unquote hand trap. Almost all the time this is a quote-unquote hand trap. This is special summoning itself. This is special summoning itself. I just don't see it worth it in this deck. But as for the cards that counter the deck, there can be only one. Really isn't a huge counter, but it can be a problem. Rivalry kind of is a problem, as you do want your warriors and machines on the field at the same time at times. Then you have the Evenly, which you're vulnerable to back row hate, so all of this really can hurt you, and that's why Solemn Judgment is an option. Mine, of course, is always an option as long as it's legal. And then you have the Floodgates that you can play. As for the extra deck, you'll see the Underworld Goddess, the Access Code, the Unicorn, the Code Talker package, the Hida, the Gadget, the Mask, the Anima, the Zeus package, the Baguska, the only ranks that you'll really ever go into, and the 2 Entis because of the punishment. That's something that you can take out if you don't want to play the punishments, but that's entirely up to you. The reason I went with this Trap Trick build was simply because going first would be terrible without playing as many traps, in my opinion. I think playing the deck like Altergeist allows you to play the deck going first and second, even though the deck of course still has its issues, and the fact that Fire Attacker won't necessarily draw you into any disruptions isn't a good thing, and that might be an argument to put Fire Engine over the Fire Attacker. But I do think that the draw 2, send 1 was going to come up more than the special summon from deck, hand, or graveyard because of the kind of deck this is, playing 15 traps and wanting to get more resources. But anyways, that's it for today's video, and I hope you enjoyed. If you're wondering, I will probably be doing some replays with the deck, and I'll do both replays with this version and a hand trap version when I do that video. But I just wanted to get a video out for the people wondering how the deck might look, wanting to see the things kind of materialize rather than just imagining them. But anyways, if you made it this far into the video, I thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them down below.